We have multiple huge Leafs updates to go over today as the game one is just around the corner against the Florida Panthers. We have some huge updates as it pertains to both the Leafs lines and some interesting things that Craig Berube has done. We're going to break that down as well as discuss some more comments from both the Leafs side as well as some interesting comments from the Panthers side as well and some other updates ahead of tomorrow night's game. But before you get into it, if you're a part of the percentage who aren't subscribed to the channel, this is the place to be for daily Leafs content. About 71% of you who are watching right now aren't subscribed. So if you're a part of that percentage who aren't subscribed, make sure to hit that subscribe button and note we will be live following tomorrow night's game one against Florida. But there's a lot to go over today, and obviously they finally practiced. It's been a couple days now. They haven't played in a couple days, but we have some updates on that front. And one of the biggest question marks coming in was, of course, and we'll dive into Mitch Marner in a second, was, of course, Bobby McMahon versus Nick Robertson versus Max Pacioretty, where they're all going to shape up, and we finally have an answer on that. But first, you can see here, Mitch Marner was not at the practice this morning because him and his wife had their first child. So congratulations to him and his family, and of course him and his wife. So congratulations to that. But that's why he's not on the ice for practice. So you don't got to worry about injuries or anything like that. He will be good to go for tomorrow's game. We also have the schedule now, which is officially out, which we'll dive into in a minute. But you can see here regarding the lines, of course, Robertson is a placeholder for Mitch Marner, so Robo is not going to be in there. It's going to be Nyes, Matthews, Marner, Pacioretty, Tavares, Nylander, McMahon, Domi, Holmberg, Lorentz, Lawton, and Järnkrok. So Darius, they remain the same as it pertains to Pacioretty and McMahon, which is a little bit surprising because we saw McMahon get up in the second line there towards the second half of last game. They're deciding to keep it as is despite the fourth line getting more minutes than the third line, which is a little bit of a wild stat. Shout out to Jim for that, but it's an interesting one here, and they're deciding to keep Pacioretty up at the second line.
There's another sneaky change that they made in the lines during practice today that I wonder if it, goes forward into tomorrow's morning skate and the game, which is Holmberg has been moved to the right wing, which he's never really played, which I think is interesting, and Domi back at center. So it seems like they like something about Max Domi in the center position. Maybe it's the speed. I don't know exactly what it is. When Holmberg gets going, he's pretty quick. So again, it's a little sneaky little move there, I guess. I don't know if that's going to stay that way, but I think I like Holmberg better at center. But nonetheless, Pacioretty staying up with the top line there, which is pretty interesting. I think, again, they bring an interesting dynamic. It didn't work throughout game six, right? We saw it kind of swap out during the game. Obviously, you got to call audibles like that sometimes. McMahon was going in that game, so it makes sense. But for now, McMahon drops down to the third line. Craig Berube actually spoke on that today, too. We'll get to that in a second, or, was doing some interesting stuff with the lines, but during practice. But yeah, I think it's, a subtle move. We'll see how it, plays out and if they make any adjustments in game, because we have no idea. I mean, this is not 2023. This is something we're going to get to in this video as well. This is not the series from 2023. This is going to be a hard fought series, and I think whoever ends up winning the series is going to go to the Stanley Cup final.
Yeah, you can see here other notes. David Kemp, he's obviously not going to be in there. He's been out for a while. Riley Carlo, McCabe Tannen, Benoit Wheels. No injuries in that front, and of course Stolarz is going to be in net, which, again, if I was wondering, it's looking like it's going to be him. And Craig Berube spoke about being a dad will do to Mitch Marner. Well, he'll probably be in a good mood. No, it's awesome. So, yeah, congratulations to him. Maybe that'll give him some dad strength like we saw from Fred VanVleet there a few years ago with the Raptors. But speaking of games, we actually do have the whole schedule now confirmed aside from the time. So game one is, of course, tomorrow. Game two is going to be Wednesday. Game three, Friday. Game four, Sunday. So you're getting, for the entirety of the first four games, only 1 day in between, the exact same as the Ottawa Senators series. You get 1 day, one rest day, every single game, every other day here, which is unfortunate in the sense of no game on Saturday. I know a lot of people wanted that. And then after that, you have Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday. So this is interesting. No Saturday games for this series, no matter what happens. There's no outcome where there isn't any Saturday games. But as it pertains to, rest, Stolarz is going to have to, get ready because he's going to be playing every other day with about 24 hours of rest. So any thoughts on this before diving into some quotes?
Yeah, very weird that last year the league went completely out of their way to make sure that the Leafs played on 3 different Saturdays in the first round alone. And this year, second round, no Saturday games. And there was barely any There was 1 Saturday game in the last series as well. So I think that's kind of interesting year to year. But nonetheless, like you said, rest is going to be an interesting factor in this series because, for the first 4 games, you only have a day in between. It's more like a schedule that you would see with any other playoff series, unlike last year too. So, you do end up getting 2 days in there. They're playing on Mother's Day as well. So that's pretty interesting. Again, no Saturday games, I think is pretty weird, but that's the schedule for this one. And it's pretty standard. I think the Leafs got to get ready to go and have to, shout out to Nick Kypreos as well, because, a couple of days ago, he was like, oh, maybe Joseph Woll should play in game one. I don't think anyone is saying that at this point. And obviously they do some great work over there as well and appreciate the opinion and stuff like that. But there's no way, unless there's an injury or, he's just not feeling well or something like that, that Joseph Woll can play at this point. Stolarz is playing so well that you can't take him out. He has to be the starter. And you know what? It's playoffs. You have to, play these guys until the wheels fall off, honestly. Until they cannot go any longer, you should be playing if you're playing that well. So obviously, if he's not playing well, pull him out. Joseph Woll can go in. But we haven't seen anything like that yet. He's led in a couple stinkers here and there, but at least it's not a Connor Hellebuck situation out there in Winnipeg as well. So it could be worse. But yeah, I think rest in terms of the actual players, especially because on the Florida side, there's some interesting stuff going on too in terms of injury. But I think it'll be more on the players, goaltenders. You just gotta, ride the hot hand until the wheels fall off.
And game one tomorrow is later than all the other previous games in the playoffs this year for the Leafs, at least May 5th at 8 p.m. But a couple other quotes here. Craig Berube spoke on William Nylander, and this is all going to kind of tie into how important this series is going to be for the mental side, especially of this team. And nothing bothers him. Talk about composure. He's pretty composed, maybe sometimes too much. And obviously, we saw the infamous, documentary, Amazon, whatever it was, clip of William Nylander calling out the players last year. He's been the one who, throughout the playoffs, has always performed fairly well, hasn't really folded under pressure, and he performed again in, Game 6 just a couple of days ago. So it's good to see that from Craig Berube, and of course, John Tavares on Marner as well. Gives you tremendous perspective and meaning to life. For him, it probably has been really emotional. I actually am curious to see how he plays some more. Of course, a very emotional time outside of hockey. So hopefully, hopefully he's ready to go. But at the same time, life is, the most important thing, and we're all glad about that. But this is a very interesting thing here. Berube called McMahon and Domi over for a chat at the end of practice. Leafs coach felt McMahon, a playoff rookie, got more comfortable as the series with Ottawa progressed. Maybe his best game was the final game. He's starting to understand, in my mind, the power forward game. Now, this is very interesting because he said that, and I was expecting, okay, maybe for the Lions, they'll have him back on the second line as Berube is giving him some praise. Not the case. They're going to keep, like we mentioned, keep him on the third line. It was his best game of the series and his best game in his playoff career because he didn't play last year due to injury. I like it. Hopefully he plays well in the third line. The third line's been by far the worst line for this Toronto Maple Leafs team. So if he can start to get going a little bit here, that'll help greatly, especially lined up against a very deep and physical Florida Panthers team.
Absolutely. And one thing that I've been saying all season is I really appreciate the transparency from the Leafs this year. Like last year, during the exit interviews, Brad Treliving was like, we need help on defense and goaltending. And all the fans are like, yes, I can see that. I can absolutely see that. And I think we're seeing the same thing with McMahon. He got better from game 1 to game 6. Game 6 was his best game of this series. He was making things happen. He was in on the forecheck, and he was using his physicality and his body to his advantage. So if he continues to get to do that, and he's going to be inserted into this series. I mean, this series is going to get really physical. This is not what we saw against Ottawa, right? Like Ottawa is more like the Leafs, I think, in terms of physicality. Florida is a whole different animal. So I'm excited to see what he's going to bring to the table in this series too, because he's going to have to. If they have any chance at success, this third line has to get going. Everybody has to get rolling throughout the series, at least. I know not everyone's going on any given night, but all 4 lines and 3 defense pairings got to get going at some point in this series. So I'm pretty hopeful of him because that game 6, honestly, he was making things happen. He was buzzing around. He was around the net. So we'll see what he brings in the next couple games as well.
Yeah, a couple other things. Paul Maurice said before heading to Toronto, good ones the Panthers PK. He's not allowed in the meetings, and if the PK isn't good, not time to worry about it as you're out of the playoffs quickly anyway. And if you actually listen to his press conference, he said a lot of different things. He basically said that you're not going to stop the Leafs core 4, and you're not going to be able to stop them from getting points that they've shown throughout their entire career that they're point getters. It's a matter of limiting everything else and doing what they can. So giving some praise to the core 4 who, haven't performed in the playoffs really, but it's been interesting. And one final thing, a bunch of different things. Now, obviously we had Anthony Solars touch on Scott Laughton. He said, we're going to need everyone to do that this series, what Laughton did against Ottawa. It's going to have to be from line 1 to line 4. With the D pairing 1 to D pairing 3. That's what it's going to take, and it's moments like that potentially swing a series. And of course, he played on the Panthers. He knows what they're going to bring, and I'm sure there's some intel there from both sides and Florida sides with Matthew Tkachuk and his brother, and then of course Steven Lorentz, OEL, and Anthony Stolarz now. So it's going to be a very grueling series, but it's good to see that Anthony Stolarz, who probably knows the Panthers as a goalie a lot more than most, they'll have something to say. Any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think that he's absolutely right. This is what's going to win the series, especially when you're playing really good teams. I mean, at this point in the playoffs, all the teams remaining are really good teams, right? You can't escape. There's no easy matchups anymore, right? So they're going to have to play a very complete game, a very detailed game, and it's going to take line 1 to line 4, like you said, and D pairing, like I just said, like D pairing 1 to D pairing 3. Everybody's got to be activated at some point in this series. And I think like you brought up, what Paul Maurice said is very interesting. The core four is going to get their points. We know that, whether it's on the power play, whatever, they've always picked up points, but they need to come up big in these big moments as this series goes on. That's what I'm looking for. And the fact that he also said we got to limit the chances of line three, line four, stuff like that, even the shots from the point, because the Leafs D has been way more activated in this playoffs than the entire regular season, right? Way more points from the D. So that's going to be something to keep in mind too. How does Florida look to limit that stuff? So it's going to be a lot of chess in this series, I think.
Yeah, and I'll start tomorrow. We'll keep you up to date. So let us know down below what your thoughts are on that, and also what your thoughts are on the little lineup change, as well as Pacioretty and McMahon remaining in their spots. Thank you guys for watching. See you later.